That was this honey badger. And what happened is I had broken parts of it a week or so before. And what it is the honey badger has arms that are made of two pieces of Darylin. Right here's an arm, and right here's an arm. And they're separated by standoffs. You can see them. There's four. These are for the motor support. And then there's two more standoffs right here. And they kind of hook into the frame right here. Let me see here. Here's a honey badger kit like it comes. This is a full kit right here. Well, no, it's not. It's a full kit minus one arm. Because like I was saying, those arms are made. Here's the top and bottom plate for another full honey badger. The only thing that's been taken out of this bag is one arm. So if you count these arms right here, you'll find there's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, that's all that's been used out of this kit is one arm. So I could put that back together the last time. And again, as you see here, these arms are all just a little piece of Darylin, and 2 of them with all these standoffs for the whole kit. 2 of these are just screwed together about an inch apart as the arms. And what had happened is in the previous crash, one of the arms had broken right through here in 2 places. Both these, and I didn't have an extra one. So I had repaired it. But the repair only lasted about, 30 seconds at the most. I'll just narrate the video for you, and we will... I'll tell you the point at which the arm broke. So what happened at that point is, with this arm in there broken and just one arm in the frame, then one of the motors was just wobbling around the geometry. This flexes really easily. So all the torque and everything was making that arm do like this in the air. It was totally out of my control. I'd had the honey badger for a while before that happened. I quit doing deep testing at the old house after that little incident. I'll describe the cost and everything in the video again as I narrate it. But it's been up on my site since 2014 when it occurred. I see why most haven't seen it. It's because it's an unlisted video right here back in February 20th, 2014. And what's going on there is I went in one day to change the visibility on a lot of my videos, and it started changing the date they were published. And because a lot of this was before 2016's FAA changes, they aren't legal after 2016, and I want this date. There's all sorts of them down through here that are probably marked private. But anyway, this was the day the little honey badger re-broke an arm, moments after takeoff. Right here. I can see right here's... yeah, this is the H quad. This is one named the Flame. This was made out of 1/2-inch wooden dowels and crafter's plywood. Completely created
I bought the dowels at Lowe's Hardware. So I had started playing with that. That's not the flame wheel though. Anyway, uh, and that was soon after I got the X650F DJI quad frame. Probably because of this day. So right here's the bad day. It's unlisted. I went back and evaluated the flight. I'll add this to my little narration. The next day on the 14th, for some people, I think I might have published these on Facebook at the time. How many flips it did through the wires. 4 flips and 3 rolls. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's these other 2. They're still marked as private. I'm afraid if this gets changed on a lot of my videos that if the FAA tries to take me to court over them at $1,500 a pop, this is going to be my defense. Well, gee, Your Honor, as you can see, and I haven't adulterated that because I can't. YouTube won't let me. And they will attest that that video was published on that day in 2014, 2 years before the rules existed. Now, that's not for this particular flight. This is just a case of a broken frame seconds after takeoff. But I'll narrate it as best I can, and we'll just go through it here. The little honey badger had a broken arm, and like I say, I had repaired it. I didn't have one to replace it. I ordered some replacements. And this flight was supposed to be a simple flight, autonomous flight. It was supposed to do like take off, go to an altitude, and land straight up, straight back down. That's all it was supposed to be. It got almost to its altitude, and I think that's when the arm broke and it went into return to launch mode. But because of the way the arm flexed so much, and it just no telling what the angles were on the motor back there even while it was all going on, it just basically pushed it across the street real quick on me at a high altitude. That I wasn't prepared for, because that wasn't what the autonomous flight was supposed to be. I put it in return to home several times. I could see in the videos after the fact that it attempted to do that a couple of times properly. Just frame geometry. It was just never going to be able to do it. Didn't really want to pull it back across the 5-lane highway after it had already crossed it once, but it got on the other side in a wooded area. But then the return to homes kind of got it back over a used car lot, which finally, knowing that battery wasn't going to last a whole lot longer, basically it got to where if I put it in return to home, it just really went wacky. So I just had to leave it alone and let it spiral down. And you'll see in the video, I walked straight up to the owner of the lot and handed him my driver's license as the first act. I always own up to everything I do immediately. They were nice about it. It was a $500 repair. Had I had my Part 107 or rules from the FAA been in force at that time, that is exactly the lowest dollar amount that is required to report to the FAA. If it does $499 worth of damage, you don't have to make a report to the FAA. But if it does $500 worth of damage, you are required to make a report to the FAA. If you have your Part 107, which I don't. Not for any particular reason, I just haven't gotten it yet. All right, let's look at the video. I'll do the best I can to narrate over the top of its audio. And right in there where it sped up is where it went into return to home, which its altitude was set above these trees, so it did need to go up a little further. Those were big trees. But it broke the frame arm, one out of the two arms on an arm. And then that whole thing started flexing around, so it just whizzed off. Well, a little honey badger could move pretty quickly. So that's me pulling it out of return to launch, and I usually keep the throttle at 50% so it slows down for a second. So I put it back into return to launch and it goes flying off further. So at this point, it's just so high and so far away, so small at that moment, that there's nothing I can do anymore but basically drop the throttle, try to bring it down, which successfully do, but then I keep putting it in and out of return to launch until it just, I'm sure the frame geometry was just so far out, that one motor not even being held upright like the other four. It was probably flexing around at different angles and stuff. I had no idea at the time that the arm had broken. So I'm just fighting it like a fish on a rod, trying to get it back lower and to the house if possible, but it never was going to happen. huh? Not so much for me. So I had already started walking towards the scene of the crash. I own up to everything I do immediately, and that lets me be free and clear. Anybody has anything to say about it after that? I don't really care. I've already told them the truth. I got nothing to hide, nothing to try to support, nothing to try to continue with any kind of deception, because I just don't do it from the get-go. So I walked right up to the owner of the lot, as you'll see, and handed him my driver's license as my first act. The employee could have been a little more tender with the GoPro camera that was on it at the time. That honey badger was being flown with a full GoPro 2, the best camera out at the time, full flight controller. Peter said nobody else was able to fly his platforms with a full APM flight system on them. There was a video transmitter and a camera in the end. It wasn't on it at that time. It was just a bare GoPro recording stuff. Got several other flights out of it. But we'll just let it play out here and you can see.
One drop. It's something. It messed it out of the car. It's what I heard. Remember I told you? And something dropped. This guy. Where we fucked it out this car. It's this guy. Yeah. Let's see where he's flying from. I heard just boom. Oh, I heard it. I know what it was. Yeah, I've been thinking cables coming down or something. You heard? I thought it was something busted. Made one loud noise when it crashed.
I'm sure it did.
What happened?
Did it do any damage?
Yeah, it mashed up the back pretty good. Well, it's got a couple of dents.
Nah. Not crazy. My arm's broke way up there.
What the heck is that thing?
The drone.
You got a camera on it?
Yeah.
And you knocked it out of the sky just a minute ago, huh? I drove by and I just saw something go boom.
Yeah.
I heard it. I heard a loud thud.
Bounced off the car.
I don't know what it was. And it I heard something coming from the sky.
I think it's broke.
Kind of broke.
Is it broken?
We ain't never.
So that was the end of that, the video anyway. As I said, I owned up to it right away, of course, and they were nice about it. They were kind of interested in the drone in a way. It was a $500 exactly to the penny repair to the roof of that car. And I lived across from that car lot and even used my Rover in their car lot at night when they weren't there to just keep an eye on the place for them for 6 years. Yeah, 6 years or 5 years at least after that. So just own up to stuff. Be sorry, I hated it happen. Didn't do a whole lot of deep testing at the house after that anymore. The platforms and I quit trying to repair plastics and stuff that I didn't have great knowledge of. I think I put epoxy on that and some wood scabs on each side of it. It wasn't sufficient, as it was obvious. But over the next day, I did dissect a few things out of the crash, and looks to me like it did 4 flips and 2 rolls. So that's the end of that. Me and a viewer were discussing this particular video, and then I realized why nobody had seen it before, because it was unlisted. And like I say, all those videos back prior to January of 2016, there's a lot back there that certainly would be breaking the FAA rules and regulations in this day and age. And a lot of them are going to stay private too, because I just can't take the chance that the date gets changed on them by doing something to them. I don't feel like I can take the chance. And if any kind of flights like that are currently going on or will go on in the future, they probably won't be published. But it was suggested I share this one, that people might find it humorous, and I thought, yeah, on a cold winter's day, maybe it'll give people a good laugh. But now you see, when I talk about this, that, and the other that could happen, it's kind of because I've been through a lot of stuff that did happen. Now, this is my only crash that did any damage to anything but my own equipment. There's several other crashes buried down in those earlier years, believe me. There's a plethora of them. The flame wheels run off a couple of times. The X650 ran off one time. They basically all came back eventually. But no damage, nothing like that. First of all, I was flipped out when it crossed the highway. I never had one cross the highway before or after that I didn't know was going to cross the highway. There was times I crossed the highway with a flame wheel and stuff with just like I would if I was walking it. I waited till the traffic was clear in both directions and then zipped across real quick. But that's the only out of control crash I had at that location. I did have another crash about a half mile from that location at the end of a long range flight. Ran out of battery and crashed, and actually found it in a yard about 2 blocks away. But again, no damage to anything but my property. But anyway, I'm going to shut up now. It was suggested I share it, so I did. Have a good one, y'all.